from the UK, broadcasting around the world. You're listening to the Mic Drop Club, hosted by Douglas Hammondisha. Message received. You do not need to know what you need. Just engage with the podcast feed. Providing weekly insights into cool stuff we've read, saw, did, or heard about what made us say, wow, eureka, damn, nothing is off limits. If it motivates and inspires you to reach your goals, then it shall be discussed. Featuring guest interviews from high performers and people of influence, and weekly awards for the best mic drop moment. This podcast is guaranteed to leave you pumped up for the week ahead. Don't just live life. Make life boom.
Hi guys, doing Douglas Hammondisha for another episode of the Mic Drop Club. Today, back in my house, my brother from another mother, Rhys Thomas, is in the house. Big up Rhys. And I'm super, super happy again that Rhys is back. You know, he brings fire every time he's here. Every time I've spoken to Rhys, I'm always left feeling more uplifted, more energized, and thankful and optimistic for the future. So, Rhys, with no further ado, how are you doing?
Hey, my brother. So good to see you again, mate. And
fantastic.
So good to be in your presence and connecting. And you bring a smile to my face, brother, every time. Oh man, ditto. And when we started this journey together, big up the Inspired Business crew. Yeah. We started this journey. We wanted to put together a mini-series of content that we could take the listener on a journey through emotional, personal, physical, psychological transformation. And we were trying to pen some themes that we'll discuss. And inevitably, when you talk to Rhys, the conversation can go in any direction because of the background that you have, the unique background, and the fact that you are a competition athlete and you've seen both sides of the highs and the lows and how to navigate that space that a lot of people are scared of. As we go on, I was reading a quote earlier today from Oscar Wilde, and he spoke of two tragedies in this world that we go through. The one is to not have, and the other one is to have. So to get what you want and to not get what you want. And you've been there where you've got what you want and it might have not been everything you wanted, and also being the aspiring to get what you want, and you've held that space. So what was it like for you? Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's been like two lives, right, Douglas? I've lived like two different lives, and I had a good friend of mine the other day, not a recent acquaintance, maybe not good friend as yet, but talking about like a rugby analogy that life is a game of two halves. You know, like we've used in rugby, it's a game of two halves. But that's most certainly how it's played out in my life. You know, from a young lad, sport allowed me to express myself. And then I was inspired by this South Africa and the surroundings that I found myself in as a young lad and wanted to succeed in the rugby world. Post South Africa winning the 1995 World Cup, when Nelson Mandela and his Rainbow Nation, changed the country. And that's all. I never played rugby, and then the minute that moment happened, like that was it. My attention was just solely on rugby, and that's what I applied myself to. And 10-year pro then. 7 caps international rugby player. And when I got there, it kind of ran away with me. It was everything I wished it to be and more, but it was like, because of how I was as a human being, my nature, my nurture, that like social aspect of my life, I kind of overindulged off the pitch and ultimately ended up affecting my on the pitch performances. And if I'm honest, I didn't reach the levels I could have reached. And it was something that when my career ended, that it played on my mind big time, not applying myself fully. And that left me with regret. And that regret is a terrible place to be. Even though, in hindsight, I did succeed. But, I suppose being an athlete, an elite athlete, you kind of look back and, you pick the bones out of it, Douglas. And
yeah, absolutely. And if you're a perfectionist by nature, that will play on your mind a lot more, that you could have done a lot more with the opportunities that you have.
Exactly.
My mom always says this to me: if you want to see the heart of a poor person, give them money, lots of money, and see what they spend on first. See what they buy, see what they do. If you want to see the nature of any person, So to be given all the trappings of success and navigating that space, it was a challenge. And anybody that didn't check out our last conversation, please check it out on the Mic Drop Club. It is epic. There were bombs being dropped left, right, and center there. Again, Rhys brought the fire. So today I want to delve a bit deeper in terms of what we call values. Yeah. Because I think it is the bedrock of a lot of people's trauma. It's what we value.
Absolutely.
Whether it's materialistic wealth, whether it's recognition, being acknowledged for some greatness or not being acknowledged. So what we value can help us and also can debilitate us. And I want you to talk to that subject about values. How do you deal with how do you formulate your own values, and how have you seen values shape other people's lives as well?
Yeah, I think for me it was just, it goes again, like there's two lives. There's my rugby, me, and my early life, and then my career loss. That's 7 years of, complete perception change, alcoholism, loss of everything, divorce, eviction from my home, ended up on universal credit. And then at that point after rehab, and now I'm almost 4 years clean and sober. It's
well done for you. And we need to pause there. This
guys,
point,
everybody
that's
ready?
a mic drop for you again. 4 years of being sober. And I understand that journey is not easy. Is it how long?
I was just over 3.5 years now. So
okay, 3.5 years. 3.5 years is still, every day is a triumph, right?
It's brings a smile to my face, brother.
Super. I'm stoked for you. For you. And long may that continue.
Yes.
These what's it called? These shall we say habits, or these things that we lean on, or props to get through life, sometimes can really take a chokehold on us as well. So glad that you've had the resilience and the courage to combat that.
Yeah, and it only made me grow as a man, Douglas. Although there was some major, mistakes made, a lot of unfortunate circumstances, and unfortunately a lot of trauma and damage on my family, and that's there's no sugarcoating it. There's no painting over it. Those years, especially the 3 years that my alcoholism was at its worst, it affected everyone. It affected my family. But, a lot of why I got myself in that mess in the first place was that I lacked values. Although, on paper, I believed I had them, there was still things that I was doing that didn't align with who I was. Although I didn't have a set of values then, when I did something wrong, I knew I did something wrong. Do you know what I mean? So then it would play on my mind. And then that cycle then starts to begin, that we talk about, that pain cycle. Whereas by then I have regret, I have shame, I have remorse, but it's all came back to, now I understand it, as because I wasn't aligned with my values and I was doing things that were going against the person I was deep down. But because to look part of that tribe I was in, to be part of the gang. Like there's certain habits that men today in society, we partake in that on in alignment with integrity, with honor, respect, these types of things. So like when my world came crashing down, that is what I built it on, was, I wasn't willing to do those mistakes again, to live a life without integrity, without honor, without honesty. And because I was tired of lying, Douglas, tired of lying and making mistakes and always looking over my shoulder, living in the past, and then worrying about the future, what was going to come up from those mistakes, that karmic effect. And so that was where things really started to change for me. And, when I then, in my more recent years, those like 3.5 years of sobriety, really going into that, embodying where I was, because obviously I had no idea what values meant. We'd been taught them, or told what values meant, but very, very many people live in alignment with their value system. Like they may tell you one thing, but they do a completely another thing. And as young men, young children growing up, we don't listen so much to words. We look at people's actions. And that's what I learned from. I learned from the actions of those around me. Subconsciously, it was stored. And then, no matter how much I've tried to live by an unknown value system to myself, it was imprinted. And that's where my pain began. And then now, at this new, second half of my life, it feels like a new beginning. Yeah. It was built on a foundation that is the cornerstone of everything I do, because it allows me to live a life not in the past, but also with a positive future, because I'm not looking over my shoulder. I don't have a baggage, a rucksack full of shit and fear, because I'm worrying that something's going to come up, or someone's going to find out what I did, or, like all these things that we do.
Wow. If I can take you back a little bit, it's very interesting that you speak of values in that way. When do you intrinsically know that your values are being compromised in the moment?
Now I do, because I have the awareness over my values.
Yeah, now because you got the awareness. Okay, yeah. Okay. But at the time when all these things were happening, did you reflect and think something's not quite right, but couldn't pinpoint what it was?
Well, normally I was intoxicated when the things that I did that were against my kind of, I would say, unwritten value system that I had, or I wasn't aware of them. Like, because everyone has a value system. They're probably maybe not just we know what's right and wrong, Douglas. We do. We know if we've got a partner and we're intoxicated and we stray, we know that's wrong. And then the next day, we are in huge amounts of dread, guilt, remorse, shame, all these things, right? But then we just bury it. We put it in the locker and we think it's going to go away. But my brother, the body keeps the score. We don't forget. We don't forget.
Wow. The body keeps the scroll.
The score.
The scroll or the score? Both for epic lines.
The body both keeps the score, lines. Brother.
Because some people literally have a scroll of all their transgressions tattooed on their body.
Oh, yeah.
So so it can work in both ways. But yeah, the body does keep a score. That is so profound. I want to know, when you now have come to realize that you've gone against your values, and you spoke about remorse, okay? So you're regretting what's happened, okay? Yeah. You're in a state of being sober with the regret, which must suck. It must suck big time, right? Oh. Right. So how do you behave? Are you, for example, some people, when they're guilty of doing something, they overcompensate with showering gifts, or over accommodating. Yeah. How does it manifest in you?
Well, in me, it was a cycle of lies, you know, and then you got to keep up those lies, and then it's remembering the lies, and then it's lies on top of lies. And then what you end up doing is living a life that is a complete lie, you know, and all you're doing is you just keep making the same mistakes, and that's where the cycle begins. But it's an emotional, mental, or physical pain cycle, whereas by I have all that the body remembers it. My mentally, although I've tried to block it out, it's there. It's stored. All those secrets, all that, you know, all those things that I've done wrong, they haven't gone anywhere. They're just like, they just storing up like this little body, like a little, what's the word for it? You know, it's like an entity that sits within, and that darkness, your shadow like begins to grow. And then in the end, you become overwhelmed with that darkness, because the only way I could escape it, and the thoughts and that incessant overthinking process about covering my tail, not being caught, lying to myself even in the end about what I was doing might have been okay, or that wasn't so bad, starting to justify it and minimalize it, rationalize it, was when, you know, that cycle was just because I'd have that pain, that emotional, mental, or physical pain. Then I would want to escape because I couldn't deal with the thought pattern. And then I would feel the need to escape, and my mode of escape was alcohol. Then I would use, and then I would feel the shame. And then that would build into that mental, emotional, or physical pain. And then I would want to escape, release, shame, and it just went bang, 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 never ending. And then it was like, even though I would tell myself, I'm never doing that again. I'm never going to drink again because this is what it makes me do. By the next Friday, boom, back into it because I couldn't live here. Couldn't live with this.
Yeah, yeah. Because there's also habits there. How much do you think habits, unhealthy habits, compromise your values?
Oh, I believe, Douglas, this is what I believe about the habits, right? Until it all came down to me, it was like one day, it was like a penny drop whilst sober, was that it all came down to choice. But I did not know what the word choice actually meant until I was conscious. Because I believe that there's conscious choice is what eventually allowed me to make the right decision. Because before, I had a choice to do that thing or to not do that thing, or to drink or to not drink. But I would manipulate myself even into believing that by doing that, it's going to just numb it, or it'll give me a break from it, or I'll feel better for 5 minutes. But then when I started to lose control of that, you know, there was no choice. Even though positive thinking couldn't get me out of that state of mind. Even if I was doing good things, you know, 3 days a week or 4 days a week, still inevitably, even if I did go sober for 1 week or 2 weeks, it would rear its head. It was only a matter of time. But when I started to realize, you know, eventually that like alcohol, you know, drugs, women, whatever the problem may have been, like they were not the problem. You know, I was the problem. And those substances and other stuff made my problem much worse. So it all came back, and it was just back to me. And then when I started to heal, started to address those issues, and they were long standing. They were stuff way back, Douglas, all the way to my upbringing, you know. Oh, wow. All those limiting beliefs and stuff. And
yeah. You spoke profoundly about those limiting beliefs, and I guess I also reflected back on some of the things that you said, and I could draw a lot of parallels in terms of limiting beliefs. Culturally, you know, you can be raised in such a way. If you're female, if you're of a certain persuasion, certain class, all of us, no matter who we are on this earth, have these limiting beliefs to some degree. So being able to challenge them, do you know, what was it? The tipping point for you was obviously the body now breaking down, you now physically cannot return to those habitual habits that are so detrimental to yourself. But do you think on reflection, you could have got to where you got to without that tipping point?
I don't think I would have, Douglas. You know, like maybe I could have brushed around the edges a little bit. I mean, I would have lost my marriage anyway. And then who knows where it could have gone. The darkness it could have maybe been dragged out. Maybe I could have found a way to moderate a little bit about my drinking, and I could carry on and, you know, but this time I would maybe be single, and that would justify some of my actions a little more. But what would I ultimately be? I would be empty, because that whole time, the reason that I was behaving in the way I was behaving was down to an emptiness. And I was longing for something. And I was constantly searching, you know, when I was looking in like pubs, clubs, nightclubs, in the bottom of a bottle, you know, these things, what was I looking for? Because materialistically, I had a lot, but it was never enough, bro.
It was never enough.
Never enough.
And certainly the man that is before me now, that richness has come through that pain, you know, and that person would not have existed. But that person was always you. Yeah,
that's the maddest thing. That's
crazy,
that's the paradox, right?
It's crazy.
He was there all along. But
and the funny thing is, when you take a look at your family, the family that has been with you throughout this journey, and do they say that you're a different person, or they also had to go on their journey to rediscover you,
absolutely,
as you had to discover yourself?
Oh, 1,000,000%, mate. You know, like my kids sometimes, and it's been hard, Douglas, you know, like, because my kids now, to them, there's like two dads. There was like the wild animal, like rogue, you know, larger than life, you know, dad. And to an extent, I'm still a larger than life.
You're still larger than life.
But like completely different, not as brash, not as argumentative, not as egotistical, but in a different way, more chilled, more, you know, a more refined human that has compassion and remorse, but also understanding that I made some terrible mistakes, but also I couldn't keep apologizing, because ultimately what happened, Douglas, was that I was being led by guilt, because the damage on my children was evident, you know, because of the relationship breakdown and the stress that my kids went through in those years when my alcoholism was at its worst, was that inevitably I did impart some trauma onto the kids. Inevitable, right? And that's developmental trauma. And also chuck a lockdown in the middle of that. The timing was not good. But so there was a lot of that transformation was a challenge for the kids, because like all of a sudden, you know, that mum and dad on together, but like dad's now this dude who, you know, meditates and prayers, and he's quite spiritual, and he's speaking from the heart. And even if that means saying how he feels and apologizing, but then because I carried that guilt because of that trauma I imparted and the damage that it caused, you know, and it showed up differently in my kids, which was also hard to deal with, because they were completely different ways. And, but it was just trusting the process, Douglas, that process, that I went through, that in time they would be able to look back and say, right, you know, dad struggled, dad had his issues, but eventually he was able to break the cycle of that, like, you know, generational trauma of heavy drinking in the family. And that, you know, I broke that cycle. And they'll be able to say, right, although dad, his actions affected us, they too also, in time, they can't see it yet, but they will be able to reflect when they're older and look back and say, right, you know, what dad did was, it took guts. It took guts.
You said something about generational. So sometimes we're fighting, for want of a better word or expression, demons.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But these demons are passed down for generation to generation to generation. So we could look at it sometimes as, it's just a battle between me and my habits and my values and the way my outlook on life. But some things are passed through the womb, through the victim of a victim, meaning your father is a victim of a victim of a victim, your mother is a victim of a victim. All of that contributes to the way that we ultimately are raised. 100%. You know, and then we show up with a lot of baggage. And when we ask our parents, why did you tell me this? And they turn around and say, because my dad told me that, my mom told me that. I said, it's not good enough. You know, have you not reflected on these things for yourself? But that's the evolution of self. And being able to go through this transformation, have you instilled some of these teachings and for meditation at least to your loved ones back home, so that generational curses, if it's a curse, is actually gone? You know, because sometimes things can skip a generation. I remember I was at a family function the other day, and one of the uncles said, "You remind me of blah, 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 at distant relatives. You know, you behave like..." I said, "No, I behave like me. Someone I've never connected to physically in the flesh, but someone's telling you that, your mannerisms were some other family members that you never met." So I'm just keen to find out your view on that. And what have you done in response to this generational baggage, as it were?
Yeah, generational trauma, mate. It's so real, right? Because, like you said, it could be cultural, especially like with women and the amount of, you know, that they've been, you know, gone through some terrible, tough times of there's not a lot of equality. We're talking about, like, you know, thousands of years, really. And that is stored in their DNA. So it's like sometimes we may be having a bad day and it's not even us that has those feelings. Those emotions are just, they're deeply stored. But, you know, it is mad, really, mate, because if you look how the stuff that's being, you know, discovered now, a lot of interesting science based around epigenetics. And if you heard Dr. Gabor Mate speak about addiction and how it comes from trauma, and even Dr. Joe Dispenza talking about epigenetics and how we're not passed down traits, because, like, you know, someone would say, because you're an alcoholic, your father was an alcoholic. But that was just trauma. Like, we all just do our best, right, Douglas? But we just get, you know, you got to look at how since, you know, we've gone through 2 world wars, you know, our great-great-grandparents came through that, you know, whether through slavery, our ancestors, which ones of them did go through that, and how did they bring up their children? You know, where was their mindsets during that time? Because people weren't talking about mental health then.
No.
Do you know what I mean? No. Like, they used to call post-traumatic stress after the war the blues. Well, you know, just like, just crack on with it. But obviously those people were badly damaged, and then just, you know, trying to bring children up. But then with the industrialization of our societies, you know, men going to work and the breakdown of the family dynamic, the feminine becoming masculine. And then, you know, it's a long history of struggle, really, in this world that we live in. And you can see that now playing out with the state of our mental health, the stats of suicides, because it's just been coming down. You know, just, we've always just done our best, but we've only learned bad habits because life has been so hard coming back just in the last, you just go back 200 years, mate. You know, you don't have to even go back any further than that to see how hard we've had it to get to this point now.
No, that's a great point, because technology is an enabler, and we're the most technologically advanced versions of humanity. that has ever existed. And with technology, it gives us time. And with time comes the opportunity to reflect and try to process what's happening. All the trauma that we have just described in the past, people are too busy. You have to get on with it because you got plow field, you got to fetch water. You know, you got to do so much stuff in the physical in the day just to survive. Now we can go to Waitrose, Sainsbury's, whatever the case may be. You got your lunch there, 30 seconds, ting on the microwave, boom. Then you're there left with your own thoughts. Then everything that has come from the past comes to your present. Yeah. And you ask yourself, wait a minute, who am I? Why do I need to do this?
100%.
Yeah.
That was the exact question I asked myself. Was that those exact words, who am I?
Yeah.
I had no idea. I was 37 years old, no idea who I was, because we are so conditioned from birth. We get given a name, we get told the sex we are, the color we are, the religion we are.
Yeah.
We get indoctrinated beliefs that are set about by a system that we don't even relate to. You know, we are just put to work. The education system was created to make labor. It's not to help us with life. We learn nothing from school really, other than socializing with our friends, how to deal with life after we finish school. And I think that's where you're seeing kids now in school, because we deal in the education sector now with the mental health charity that I helped to co-found. And mate, kids are so, they are just not engaged because they can see through it. They've got a lot of information at their fingertips and they're like, what are we learning? Like, this is not benefiting me in any way, shape or form.
Yeah.
And it's less community, Douglas. They're moving less. Although they think they're more connected than ever, we're less connected than ever.
Yeah.
And you just look around, bro. That's exactly where we are. No community, no common ground, because we've all become singular, isolated. And that's not how we're meant to be, bro. We're creatures of community. We all long to be seen, to be heard, and to be held. That's all we want.
Wow. You know what? You're going to get atomic mic drop.
Okay, guys, everybody ready?
That was epic.
Atomic
and
mic drop.
What I will say to you is this. As you were speaking, I was recalling the conversation I had with one of my colleagues who does jiu-jitsu. And he spoke about when he is training young men, one of the exercises he puts them through is to hug him. He gets them around and say, just hug me.
Yeah.
And a lot of the men will say, oh, no. Yeah. They're shy away. I can punch you, I can fly kick you, I can do all that. But I don't want another man to hug me and all that kind of stuff. And again, he speaks about this as a form of trauma a lot of men have gone through, you know, where they have not had the emotional, physical connection with their fathers.
Absolutely.
And don't know how to embrace another man, and you know, and that's to the detriment, because that leads to a lot of violence and other types of behaviors. And when they do that, quite a few of them have broken down and started crying. You know, because the only time, like culturally, sometimes we see each other or gives us a pow and just, you know, but awkward. It's all good. And then he's like, yeah, that's enough. But there's an element where we need to love each other a lot more, and particularly safe spaces for all men, particularly young boys as well coming up.
Yeah, definitely.
One thing I've learned, and is, let me frame it right, is look, if we're the most technologically advanced human that's ever existed, because of all the stuff that we're creating, AI, rockets, all of that technology that we have, right? No other human was able to create those things. Just go back 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 100 years ago. Yeah. So what do you think of these children? As you rightfully said, these children can see through it. Why can they see through it? Because these children are more advanced than the parent. Yeah. They're coming into the world with a tremendous gift. They can navigate technology. It's almost like intuitive for them. So they're even more advanced than we are. And can you imagine what they will create in their lifetime? These kids that we as a society don't give them enough love, praise, support. What do you think they will create in terms of technology if we don't love them? Considering our generation has built maybe AI and stuff, what are they going to bring to the table? So I think it's incumbent for us to really support younger people on the journey, give them those spaces, give them the support and love they need.
Mate, there's not enough of it, Douglas. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like you said, how uncomfortable are some men when you also tell them that you love them? Like, you can genuinely say it as well. Like, you know, I can say it to you, Douglas. You know, I love you, brother. And
it's back at you, boy.
You know, but we do. But I can tell you now, just a few years back, if someone said to me, a man, I love you, bro, I'd be like, okay, no, mate, chill out. Do you know what I mean? But we struggle with these types of terminologies. And it is, but do you know, like kids now, I think we're at a very interesting time of history, Douglas, where you're going to see exponential pace of society grow faster than, you know, it's been fast now. I didn't have a phone at 18. I had my first phone at 18, right? And in that time, Tim, like almost 20 years since then, 22 years.
Be modest.
Yeah, 22 years. I'm 40. Right? So, like in that time, look at the growth. I mean, look at the speed in which society has moved forward, and now with quantum computing, you know, AI, like how quick is it going to go from now for the next 5-10 years? I mean, who knows, right? It's going to be scary.
It's going to be scary. And onto your point, Rhys, about generational trauma. Right. Let's apply that into what you just mentioned, the quantum realm, the realm of technology, AI, that uses data sets, where we had an opportunity with AI to rebalance past trauma from women, people of different genders, people from different color backgrounds, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But if your data set is biased because you're pulling a data set that was already loaded with inconsistencies, that's just a continuation of that in the digital age.
Yeah.
So we need to be able to have these. I think it's incumbent on all of us to have these conversations and say, do you know what? Yes, let's put the groundwork in place so that any new technology that's deployed is built on a solid foundation. So mankind, the humankind, can move forward in harmony. Because when you watch these young kids and they're playing their video games, ping, 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 all that kind of stuff, and I said, who are you talking to? At the same time, I'm talking to, and they give you these stupid code names that you don't know. And you ask them, is that boy, girl, black, white, Chinese? Who is this person? They don't know, and they don't care. They're just busy doing their stuff in their space. And I think we need to fast forward supporting and creating an environment where that stuff is normal for everybody. So the biases that we have come with the trauma. And the trauma is exhibited by behavior. As you said, I'm falling through your pain cycle of values, right? And who you hurt can also create industry. For example, Alcoholics Anonymous would not exist if it wasn't people for being alcoholics.
100%.
Yeah, mental health services wouldn't exist if it wasn't for people having mental health problems, and so forth and so forth. So you can eventually stop promoting industries that are destructive, like the alcohol industry as such. You don't have to consume alcohol to those levels and stuff like that. So we can have a cleaner humanity. Yeah. A bit of a John Lennon-like way of viewing things. But I've really, my age, I'm going to be 50 next year, right? I'm starting now to really question what goes in my mouth. I'm not eating anymore for comfort. Yeah. I'm not eating anymore because I'm bored. Yeah. You know, I'm eating more for medicinal stuff. Yeah, for medicinal stuff. I say to myself, before I eat something, I think, why do I need to have that in my body? You know, like if I'm going to take a lot of carbs, I'll say, okay, Douglas, are you going jogging after? If the answer is no, I leave the carbs. I'm trying to be like that. So it's not, like, no matter what happens, because if you go back to the essence of the cave dweller, the Neanderthal, towards the winter they'll bulk out because they know the food's going to be rationed, isn't it? It's not going to be in abundance. But we, because of industrialization, regardless, eat the same amount no matter what season it is.
Yeah.
No matter how we're feeling, just have to eat. So that's the journey I'm on at the moment. I'm still struggling, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
It's a cycle, right? As well. Again, like it's all about self-love, though, Douglas. Right? At the end of the day, like same thing when I gave up alcohol, then I started eating, and it was like just a cross addiction because ultimately, although I was trying to address that pain that was residing within and looking for something. Which, looking for a God or someone to fill that void. But ultimately, it came back to me. And we are all God. We are an expression of God. However, whatever God you believe in, it's regardless because we all believe in a creator. And my longing for that connection, that wondering like, who, how have we got here? Who are we? Who am I? Led me back to me and realizing that actually we are all God. And for me, that took away so much of my fear, mate. It really did. And
wow,
like, it was because I realized like, why are we, why am I actually scared of dying? Why am I scared of all these things that I had in life, fear of rejection, fear of confrontation, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of death, fear of the unknown, so many fears. It drove my whole life. And you look at the press today, they're just hammering fear down our throats constantly to control us. No other reason.
Yeah.
Because if we keep us scared, we keep in their system. This corporatized system, whereas, like you said, it's fast food corporations. Like, why do they have they shouldn't be allowed to sponsor any sports or any TV adverts or anything like that. Same with like sugary drinks, caffeine drinks, alcohol, gambling, all these all corporatized systems that cause so much pain and suffering in our world. And like another one, why are all drugs not legal? Like just the war on drugs doesn't work. And you look at the effect the psychedelics is having in the PTSD and depression area right now, and the research that's coming out of Imperial College in London. Like, bro, the plants have the answers, Douglas. Food is medicine. Yet we're putting food with no value in our bodies because our lives are upside down. So much trauma, developmental, personal trauma, but also conditioning and programming constantly by this society, being bombarded from every avenue. The news corporations, the TVs, even the things we watch, right, are loaded with messaging. And, social media has also been such a tough one on kids because of the expectation of, you got to look a certain way, or you've got to have this material stuff. Otherwise you're a loser. Or so like it's caused so much pain, mate, in these young people. And you see young men and women,
Absolutely.
So much self-harm, so much body dysmorphia, and then we're overeating because of our pain. Bro, the suffering is immense. And at a point, sometime in the near future, I pray that we see it as this madness of what it is, and we all just go, enough. We need a new way. We need a new system because it's corrupt. The whole system is corrupt.
Yeah, we need a great reset.
Oh, bro,
a great reset. And you know what? It starts with people like yourself, myself, evangelizing that we're happier in this state of being. Some of these battles are are going to be fought, but not through the traditional methods.
Yeah.
You know, if overnight people decide not to go and eat certain fast food joints, they won't be here for that long. No. If people reconnected with nature, as you rightly said, the solutions are in the plants. We are from the earth and we are part of the earth.
100%.
You see what I mean? So anything from the earth is good for us, but we don't need to be eating things that are overly processed. You know, me and my partner, we've done a tally on how much money we spent on what they're called, herbs and spices.
Yeah.
Herbs and spices, and it came out to over £100 a year. Over £100 a year. You know, and a lot of these herbs and spices we can grow ourselves in our garden.
Yeah.
You know, but we've forgotten the skills.
Yeah.
You know, or we want to do the skills. How many people actually have a physical space? If you don't have a garden, you've got a ledge, you could grow vine tomatoes. You can do something to grow your own organic produce, you know, which will taste a lot sweeter. You know, it would be nurtured in love, and that's what you put in your body.
I was just about to say that, grow that love back, give it back to yourself.
Yeah. We could do that instead of being on what's it called, till number 11 in Tesco's with a £20 worth of produce that you could have all made, or grown yourself in your own back garden.
Exactly, and the likelihood is that produce is sprayed with pesticides that are harmful to our bodies anyway.
Yeah.
So like, again, it just always comes back, Douglas, to we're all run by these corporate entities in every aspect of our life that do not put the people first. It's profit over people all day long. And it's harmful in every direction you turn. It's profiteering. Yeah. And it's affecting us at a deep level at every aspect of our life. So like it's becoming ever increasingly difficult to take action too, because our governments keep squeezing us, you know, raising gas and electric, raising fuel, raising cost of living, you know, vehicles getting more expensive. Like, you know, like at what point, you know, are we going to take action and say like enough's enough now, you know?
Yeah, we need intervention. And I'm a firm believer that things don't last forever. No. You know, societies don't continue to accelerate. They can implode, you know, they can be stagnant.
Bro.
Yeah, it's projecting. So we need to appraise, sit back, chill, and do whatever it takes to be a better human being. And as you said about we're all connected, we're all part of God, we're all part of the creation. What we put down today in Mic Drop Club is a creation. You know, I'm part of you, you're part of me. It's all oneness. And that is why I knew that we're going to keep bumping heads, because our lifestyles are so busy. Yeah. But I'm constantly looking on the feed, Rhys, for what you're doing, where you're at, why you're doing what you're doing. So I just want to say, because I know time is limited, thank you one more time for gracing the Mic Drop Club with your wisdom, with your tales. And you know your nickname should be Sensei. You know, you're gone from being, as you said, young was rogue. Yeah. Now you're a Sensei. You know, which is such a beautiful thing for me to be in your company having these conversations. Yeah. But this is not the end. This is what we need to do is formulate what we discussed and framing it around a series, and then that way we can share it out to the public.
Yeah, and thank you, brother. Thank you for your light and your energy and this platform. And like, there's definitely, I reciprocate what you said. Like you inspire me when I see you, and what you bring and the way you show up in the world is inspiring to me as well, brother. So
super stuff.
Thank you for that. I thank you for this space together.
You don't know, it's ours, and it's golden, you know. And I appreciate the moment. Sometimes I'm quiet when I'm hearing you talk, because I'm appreciating the moment whilst I'm in the moment. There's no point in me when you're not there. There's no point in doing it when, oh my God, I'm appreciating it whilst I'm in the moment. you know, which is so important. So, no, Rhys, have a great evening. We'll catch up soon, okay? God bless.
Yeah. Good.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to check out micdropclub.com and get the show notes and useful links. Subscribe to the podcast. Don't just live life. Make life boom.